Qui-Gon Jinn was a renowned Jedi among the Order, known for his power, combat reputation, and his penchant for the unorthodox. Before Anakin became the most well-known rule breaker of the Jedi Order, Qui-Gon was the scourge of the Temple. His dismissal of Jedi dogma is what made him stubbornly insist on Anakin being trained, and what carried most of his victories within his life as a knight. His stubbornness being his greatest weapon as well as downfall. However, the story we are going to tell you today is that of his maverick decisions nearly leading him over the edge to the dark side. Welcome, curious consular of the galaxy, to today's video, where we will be telling the story of Master Tahl, Qui-Gon Jinn's Jedi girlfriend. As a youngling in the Order, Qui-Gon had proven to be of exceptional skill and power, rising above the rest of his classmates. During his training as a young boy, he met a girl there, a young girl named Tahl. They hit it off immediately and became the best of friends. During the time where the younglings were to prove themselves to the masters, Qui-Gon defeated every other youngling present, including Tahl, catching the notice of Master Dooku. Dooku selected Qui-Gon to be his apprentice and to be trained as a Jedi Guardian. Tahl, on the other hand, went on to become a Jedi Consular. As you know, in the Jedi Order, there are not only several ranks, but also several different paths for Jedi to follow that typically fall in between one of three categories, each an umbrella over their own duties. The categories were Guardian, Consular, and Sentinel. Jedi Guardians are the ones we see the most of in the Star Wars media. They are the ones out in the front lines, brandishing their lightsabers on the battlefield, going in to solve conflicts, and doing their part as peacekeepers in the wider galaxy. The path of a Consular, though, was far different. Consulars, on the other hand, were typically made up of Jedi Padawans that either failed their trials, those whose talents lied elsewhere in the Force other than battle, or those who chose to explore the galaxy by seeking knowledge, not so much power and ability. While Guardians were usually the ones out on the move for the most part, Consulars would stay behind at the temple. This was the case for Tahl, as she became a lore keeper within the temple archives, her job being much like the librarian Jocasta knew. Anyway, as the years went by and both Tahl and Qui-Gon grew up in their respective professions and subsects of the Jedi Order and achieved the rank of Master themselves, their friendship and closeness only grew stronger. Their different paths not pulling them apart but bringing them together, embracing their differences. Eventually, these feelings turned into something more. Feelings of love and passion. Both Jedi were very weary of their feelings, so they did their best to not let it be known. However, their attraction was undeniable, and it was becoming more and more difficult to ignore. As they became masters, the council encouraged them to take on Padawans of their own. Tahl refused at first, and soon after, she would actually be sent off-world to some missions of her own with Qui-Gon, one of which was when they were dispatched to the planet of Solon as supervisors of the first free elections held on the world, democracy attempting to be restored on the planet. While there, Tahl developed a close bond and friendship with the twin daughters of the people's hero, Iwan. Their names were Aretha and Alani. Years later, Qui-Gon and his first apprentice Xanatos had to quell some riots happening in Telos 4. By 44 BBY, Tahl was sent to act as a peacekeeper to the broken world of Melida Don, where the Melida and Don people were murdering each other. She was caught in battle and sustained injuries that caused her to lose her sight, and she was held captive there for some time. Qui-Gon and his new Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi, were sent to rescue her as soon as possible. Eventually, they succeeded, and once she was returned to the temple, it was confirmed that she was totally blind, and now didn't go out anymore on missions, being deemed unfit by the Council for active duty. Tahl, however, remained at the temple. Able to be aided by the Force and her immense knowledge of galactic lore, she spent her time helping other Jedi prepare for their own missions by giving them detailed information about planets they intended to visit. When the temple was vandalized and an attempt on Master Yoda's life was made, Tahl worked with Master Jinn to try to uncover the assassin. Soon, it was uncovered that the mastermind behind the whole ordeal was Qui-Gon's first Padawan, now the dark side wielder and dark Jedi known as Xanatos, who had recently fully embraced the darkness. After an attack on the temple was thwarted, Tahl was given the go-ahead to continue investigations into the outrageous situation. During the situation, a young girl by the name of Irene showed great bravery and integrity, keeping Xanatos from acquiring his ultimate prize, an artifact called the Crystalline Vertex. The Vertex that was stored in the temple's archive vault. Tahl selected the young girl as her Padawan, though she regularly left her behind to go on short missions of her own. This upset the members of the High Council, as well as Qui-Gon Jinn, who had several arguments with her about the matter. In 41 BBY, Tahl received a distress signal from the twin girls from whom she had formed a close bond with on Upsilon. Around this time, she and Qui-Gon's feelings had grown even stronger, and the two had planned to address it and talk about it after her return from the planet. Despite objections from Qui-Gon Jinn, she went to the planet alone to deal with the situation. Several weeks would pass, and she would not have reported to the council. During this time, Qui-Gon would grow increasingly more worried. He was stressed out and always asking if she had reported in. It took his Padawan Obi-Wan to remind him to be mindful and patient, all of this being a far cry from the focused and patient Qui-Gon that many of us are familiar with. Against direct orders from the Jedi Council, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan went to Upsilon to find out where Tahl was and why she had not reported back to the High Council. Once there, the Jedi duo managed to find Tahl and helped her complete her mission. During their struggles, Master Jinn pledged his life to her, and she did the same to him, speaking aloud the feelings that they had long held for each other, vowing to leave the Jedi Order if necessary so that their love could be cultivated. Soon though, Tahl was discovered and kidnapped by the Chief Security Controller, Balag, who betrayed the Jedi. He put her in a sensory deprivation containment device, injecting a drug that slowly drained her of her strength, torturing the Jedi Master. When Qui-Gon finally found her, Tahl was still alive but was slowly fading. Qui-Gon took her to the nearest hospital and they had a heart-to-heart discussion before she ultimately succumbed to her injuries within her bed. The pain of this loss, coupled with the loss of his first Padawan Xanatos, was nearly too much for Qui-Gon Jinn, as he was filled with rage and a need for revenge. He relentlessly chased down Balag, the dark side ever growing within him. Once he found him, the Jedi Master struck him down and was about to deliver the killing blow when he heard the voice of Tahl through the Force, begging him to stop. He realized how close he was to the dark side and reined himself back in. After bringing Balag to justice, he vowed to never go that far into the dark side ever again, this being the closest that he had come, nearly fully losing himself as a Jedi, taking the life of someone that was defenseless, and nearly going down the path that Anakin would go down when he decided to behead Dooku on the Invisible Hand. We all know Qui-Gon wasn't exactly a stickler for the rules, but we do know that he is a good Jedi in the end. The whole situation is exactly why the Jedi are not encouraged to form attachments and love one another. The strict code wasn't always like this. Way back in the early days of the Jedi Order, the rule was more like this: have compassion and love for all beings and things, but do not allow your attachments to rule over you. Not being a slave to your attachments and having no attachments at all are two very different things. The Jedi believed that any and all attachments would lead to the dark side, when in actuality, it was this very rule against attachments that led many to the dark side anyway. Perhaps this is one of the rare few instances where the Jedi may have been right. Had Tahl not been able to stop Qui-Gon on that day, then he may have become an exceptionally powerful dark side wielder and a dark Jedi, perhaps even a Sith Lord. Perhaps we could have gotten the Sith duo of Count Dooku and a Sith Qui-Gon. This is just another example of why it would have been important, if not completely necessary, that Qui-Gon should have trained Anakin. With Anakin's love for Padme, Qui-Gon would have been able to help him properly process his emotion, while warning him about the dangers of his attachments, with Qui-Gon having gone through the exact same thing. Though I don't believe Qui-Gon would have discouraged him from seeing her, but simply told him his own story and have it serve as a cautionary tale. He would have been able to relate to the young Skywalker, which I believe would have made Anakin want to listen more. So friends, what did you think of today's video? Had you heard of Jedi Master Tahl before? What do you think a dark side Qui-Gon would have looked like? Comment down below your thoughts, and as always, may the Force be with you and have a great day.